Hello everyone, glad to be back. Today is 30th of July, Sunday, so I wish you a great day and I hope you had a great day yesterday. Now it's 15 past 10 in the morning Moscow time. I'm Levan Gudadze and this is my first update for the day in which I will share all the main news that are making headlines in Russian media and Russian language pages on different internet platforms. Second update will be a little bit late in the afternoon on my Patreon page, in which I will share additional news that will be reported by Russian media, and also I will summarize previous week, how it went for our channel, and I will try to answer some questions that I see in comment sections, as I usually do in informal talks on Sundays. And many of you probably did notice that I do create some extra content for Patreon on a regular basis, at least twice or 3 times a week, and I do so in hope that it will help to generate additional interest among members of our community towards my Patreon, because our project is still in the surviving mode, if I may say, and the Patreon, together with the donations from PayPal and Buy Me a Coffee, are major lifelines for a project, and well, I will be immensely grateful if you will consider to join my Patreon. You will see links under this video in the description box or in the pinned comment. Today is 30th of July, so I can say we did survive this month also, and hopefully we will survive August also. As you can see, I have no advertisement on channel. Channel is not monetized on YouTube, so only way this channel, this project on YouTube, Rumble or Telegram can exist is with your support. That's been said, let's talk about news now, and I will start with and by the way, I was asked quite a few times how will I prefer support, to receive support with Buy Me Coffee, with PayPal, or through Patreon. And if it's up to me, of course, I do prefer Patreon, because it does gives me this additional knowledge about funds that I can operate with, and it's just much easier that way. And of course, PayPal is much more preferable than Buy Me a Coffee, because I never experienced any difficulties with the Patreon or PayPal, which I cannot say about Buy Me a Coffee. And well, next week I will monitor Buy Me a Coffee, and if I encounter any difficulties with that platform, probably I will stop using Buy Me a Coffee whatsoever. But yet again, for now at least, yes, Buy Me a Coffee still, I'd still have a page on Buy Me a Coffee. Now let's talk about news, and well, I will start with breaking news for this moment, which is that Zelensky's regime once again did conduct a drone strike in direction of Russian capital, in direction of Moscow, and I did share information on my Telegram channel this morning with some photo and video material. And well, according to latest news, Zelensky's regime did launch 3 drones in direction of Russian capital. All 3 drones were neutralized by Russian air defense systems and radio electronic warfare systems. 2 drones, 1 drone was shut down by air defense systems, 2 drones were suppressed by radio electronic warfare. And I guess because of loss of orientation by these drones, one of them did fall down in business district of Moscow, in Moscow city, and hit high-rise building, where 1 floor, as you can see in this picture here, 1 floor was damaged, and some debris did fail on the street. And in this video here, for example, you can see a moment of According to Russian officials, no one was killed during this strike, but one person was injured. I did check Russian language Telegram channels this morning to see reaction of Russian public, and well, understandably, many people are very angry, and some questions have been raised. How Ukrainian side is still able to launch drones and reach Moscow, because after all, from Ukraine to Moscow, it's quite a distance. It's at least 500 kilometers, I believe. And many people find it difficult to believe that Russian S-300 or S-400 air defense systems are unable to track these drones and destroy on the way between Ukraine and Moscow. And that's why some rumors are circulating that maybe these drones are launched not from Ukraine but from Russian territory by saboteurs that Zelensky's regime did send to Russia. Of course, it's hard to tell. It's only speculation. But yet again, me personally also find it difficult to believe that Russian air defense systems that are probably best in the world are unable to track drones from Ukraine to Moscow. And that's why I think there's some probability that maybe some Ukrainian sabotage groups are or terrorist groups are operating on Russian soil, maybe in Moscow region, and these drones are launched from there, from close vicinity to Moscow. But yet again, no official statements about these speculations, so hard to tell really. But unfortunately, time after time, we do see that Zelensky's regime is trying to hit deep inside Russian territory, to hit Russian capital, and these kind of instances will probably continue as long as Zelensky's regime is receiving support from Western so-called elites, and as long as they are receiving long-range weapons, including drones. And by the way, second breaking news is also about drone strikes. During the previous night, Zelensky's regime did launch up to 25 drones in the direction of Crimean Peninsula, and according to Russian Defense Ministry, all 25 drones were neutralized, 16 drones were shot down by air defense systems, and 9 drones were suppressed by radio-electronic warfare systems. No reports about casualties or any significant damage on the ground. Now, before I continue with news, let me share with you a quick summary of the situation on the front line. So I will start from southern sectors up to northern ones. So Kherson region, it's not big different. It's deadlock or operational pause basically. Mainly artillery duels have been conducted by sites and recon operations. Nothing in the scale that will influence overall situation on this sector of the front. When it comes to Zaporozhye and Sovdonetsk sectors of the front, main hot points here, of course, Rabotin settlement in this pro-Ukrainian map is getting crazy, man. According to this map, Rabotin is already under control of Zelensky's regime, and also Novo Prokopievka, which is totally false. And as I said many times before, I use this map just because of colors. It's easier to highlight geography or geolocations on this map, and that's the only reason I use it, because it's totally unreliable. You cannot trust this map absolutely. But yet again, one of the main hot points, it's Rabotin, of course, in southern part of Orekhov, and of course this bridgehead between Ugledar and Gulyai-Polye that Russian forces still control, so-called Vremevsky Ledge. When it comes to Rabotin, now there were some reports that weather was quite rainy during the previous 24 to 48 hours, and that's why probably Ukrainian forces were not that active, and not that many these suicidal local scale attacks were conducted. But yet again, this in this direction, in direction of Rabotna, Ukrainian forces probably lost military equipment and manpower for up to 2 brigades. So up to 2 brigades of Ukrainian forces was neutralized if you take into account quantity of destroyed military equipment and manpower. When it comes to by the way, it's quite possible that Ukrainian forces in this sector are just running out of steam, and they will be quite passive as long as, and they will become they will begin their offensive, local scale offensives once they will receive some additional reinforcement. And when it comes to Vremovsky Lech direction, there are different reports that coming in that are contradicting each other, especially about settlement of Staromayorsk here. We did had like 2-3 days ago some reports that Russian forces did began to retreat from this settlement and regroup, but yesterday afternoon Russian channels did report that Russian forces conducted offensive operation and retake control over the Staromayorsk. Some channels are report that only partial control have been retaken by Russian forces over this settlement. But I will say, because it's hard to tell really what is situation on the ground right now, I will say this settlement is disputed between the sides. And when it comes to Urozhaina, according to this map, is under Ukrainian control, but in reality Urozhaina is under full Russian control. Ukrainian forces did not reach this settlement. That's why I said this live map is totally unreliable. Only reason I use it because of this light coloring that allows much easier to highlight geography of the battlefield. But overall situation on this land bridge between Crimea and mainland Russia is still on a deadlock. It's operational pause, and nothing is happening that will influence situation in the scale of entire sector. When it comes to Donetsk direction, it's usual stuff: artillery duels between the sides, recon operations, and main hot points, of course, are Marinka, Krasnogorovka, and Avdiivka. But yet again, it's operational pause. Nothing on the large scale. Bakhmut direction, almost the same situation, because yet again, according to some reports, weather was quite rainy, and military equipment was unable to freely move around without risking to stuck in the fields, and maybe that's a major reason why Ukrainian forces were quite passive in southern, let's say, flank of the Bakhmut in direction of Andreevka or Klishchevka. Despite some expectations that Russian forces will withdraw from Klishchevka to regroup and retake control over the settlement in when they are in better position. At least for now, we did not have any confirmations that Russian forces withdraw from Klishchevka. Exactly opposite is happening, I believe, and Russian forces are not just holding to their positions, but they are trying to improve their positions and gain control over the lost strongholds in this area. So I will call Klishchevka in a gray zone, or disputed between the sides. On the northern sector of the Bakhmut, initiative is in Russian side, and despite all the attempts from Ukrainian forces to achieve any success in the direction of Yakhidne or Berkhovka, they are unsuccessful, and I don't believe they will ever be able to regain initiative in this area. When it comes to northern sectors of the front line, it's Russian forces become yet again quite active in Seversk direction, in settlement of Belogorovka here, which is quite logical because recent weeks Russian forces did manage to achieve quite significant success on the northern sectors from Liman direction to Kupiansk direction, and it's becoming necessary at this point to improve positions in direction of Seversk. Also, so in coming days, Russian forces will probably try to regain full control over the Belogorovka, and maybe we will see movements from Russian side to at least partially encircle Seversk. When it comes to Liman, Kupiansk direction, initiative is totally in Russian side, and in many areas Russian forces are managing almost on daily basis now to move forward, in some places for a few hundred meters, in some places for a few kilometers even. And as I said quite a few times before, Russian forces in this area, I believe, are ready to conduct large-scale offensive operations once they will receive green light from Moscow, from general staff. Well, there were some reports also that yesterday Russian forces did strike one of the military institutions in Sumy city, artillery academy, if I'm not mistaken, and there are some video footage that are circulating in internet that this institution was destroyed. Well, Russian forces are quite active in when it comes to take missile and drone strikes in direction of Sumy, and this is also quite understandable because I believe before end of this summer we will see large-scale Russian offensive operations in northern sectors of the front, and maybe not just entire Kharkov region will be come direction of Russian offensive, but also Chernigov and Sumy regions. So constant strikes on Ukrainian logistical or military infrastructure in Chernigov and Sumy regions are quite logical in that sense. And this is quick short summary of the situation on the front line. It's operational pause at this moment, and nothing is happening that will influence overall situation on the front. Only exception is northern sectors of the front line, where Russian forces are, as I understand, ready to conduct large-scale offensive operation as soon as they will receive green light from general staff. Now let's talk about some other news. And by the way, Vladimir Saldo, a governor of Kherson region, did report yesterday that Russian air defense systems did manage to shut down 12 Storm Shadow missiles that were targeting railways that are connecting Crimea with Kherson region. Quite effective work from Russian air defense systems. And well, maybe someone in London was thinking the Storm Shadows will become some kind of game changers, but in reality it did not take too long for Russian air defense systems to learn how to deal with these cruise missiles. Let me continue now. RIA Novosti is reporting that Zelensky, according to Ukrainian officials, did visit Frontline, and he was in Kramatorsk. Chisovyar, and Konstantinovka. And it does make sense if it's true, because I believe once Russian forces will begin its large-scale offensive operations in the northern sectors of the front line, I guess in central sectors of the front we will also see activization of Russian forces, and of course main directions will be Chisovyar, Konstantinovka, and Kramatorsk. So Russian forces will reach Kramatorsk-Slavyan defense line from both sides, from southern flank and from the northern flank. So maybe Zelensky went there to somehow hype up morale of Ukrainian forces, but I don't think he will be able to do so, because even though Ukrainian forces are under heavy influence of propaganda, true information, after all, will probably begin to reach Ukrainian military personnel, and as time goes by, we will see more and more instances when Ukrainian soldiers and entire units of Ukrainian army will make right decision to surrender, to lay down arms and surrender. Let me continue now. RIA Novosti is also reporting that Russian forces did a strike one of the decision-making centers in Dnipropetrovsk. Of course, you are familiar with this news that SBU's headquarters in Dnipropetrovsk was targeted. According to Ukrainian sources, that building was empty, but according to Russian sources, that building was operational and functioned as a decision-making centers, and some rumors even began to circulate on internet that Zelensky was in that building during the strike. But I'm not gonna go in this rabbit hole. There are so many rumors we did see in previous weeks and months about Zelensky, Budanov, and some other Ukrainian officials, military officials, that it's without factual evidence. It's pointless to discuss that kind of rumors, really, or speculations. Let me continue. And TASS news agencies reporting about statements that Evgeny Balitsky, head of Zaporozhye region, did made, and according to him, Russian forces, basically he is confirming information that Russian forces conducted offensive operation in the direction of Staromayorsk on that Vremevsky ledge and regain control over some areas. But yet again, I believe we need some more additional news to have a good understanding what is happening on the Vremevsky ledge. And Staromayorsk is quite important settlement, because if we look at the map, if Ukrainian forces manage to regain or establish control over the Staromayorsk, then they will have an open path in direction of Urozhaine. So that's why, to secure Urozhaine, that Russian forces are basically forced to conduct these offensives in direction of Staromayorsk. And if situation on the ground will be not in favor of Russian forces, if they will be forced to retreat from Staromayorsk, I believe same will happen in Urozhaine, because it will be incredibly difficult to defend Urozhaine. And when it comes to, as we know, Russian side is using this mobile warfare tactic, and when it comes to choose some stronghold or lives of soldiers, Russian side always choosing lives of soldiers, and that's a correct approach in my understanding, because you can always regain control over some territories, but you cannot bring back killed soldiers. So this direction is very important, and I believe in coming days we will have much more information to have a better understanding what is going on the Vremevsky ledge. Let me continue now, and RIA Novosti is reporting about statement of Putin about relationships between Russia and NATO, and he did mention during his statements that Russia don't want confrontation with NATO, but Russia is ready for military clashes with NATO if it's come to it. And this is once again warning that should be taken seriously by Western elites, but to be honest, I don't think Western elites are able to properly read or understand those warnings that they are seeing from Moscow. And this will continue, I guess, as long as You know, as I said quite a few times before, Western elites will stop only when they are forced to stop. They have no reverse gear, and no matter how many warnings will be sent from Moscow, Western elites aren't gonna stop constant escalation. And unfortunately, if even Putin is talking about possibility of clashes between Russia and NATO, then probably such a risk is truly not just exist, but such a risk is quite high. Let's continue. And RIA Novosti is reporting that Saudi Arabia will hold a conference about peace, peace in Ukraine, achieving peace in Ukraine, but Russia won't be participating in this conference. And well, when I see this information, I find it difficult to understand what Riyadh is trying to do, really, because what is the point to talk about peace in Ukraine if Russia is not participating? I mean, they can talk with similar success with mirror, because it will change nothing. But well, maybe Saudi Arabia wants to use its influence to somehow pressure Kiev to begin negotiations with Moscow and to accept Moscow's terms. Maybe that's a real reason for Saudi Arabia to host such a conference. I don't know, but let's see what kind of information will come out from Riyadh. RIA Novosti, but by the way, Moscow has said many times before that conferences, peace, and other talks about peace in Ukraine, if Russia is not participating, basically are meaningless or pointless, because without Moscow, there can be no solution. They cannot find a solution of Ukrainian crisis without Moscow's participation, which is logical, but still, for some reason, this simple stuff has to be explained to Western elites and some other parties that are trying to play some role in this crisis. And by the way, RIA Novosti is also reporting that Russian forces first time did manage to capture Swedish armored personnel carrier SV or CV-90, and I did show on my Telegram channel video footage of that captured Swedish armored personnel carrier. It's slightly damaged, but but when you look at inside, it's almost untouched and almost intact. And I believe Russian engineers will study this piece of equipment, and if anything can be used to improve Russian military equipment, Russian armored personnel carriers, then probably it will be reverse engineered and used. And this will happen not just with the Swedish, in case of the Swedish armored personnel carrier. It will happen with the captured Leopard 2 tanks. It will happen with captured French wheeled tank that we did see that was transported on streets of Mariupol. I did share video of that on my Telegram. And it will happen with all the Western military equipment. I mean, if something to be learned from those military equipment, if some technology can be reverse engineered and used to improve Russian equipment, of course it will be done, and it's quite logical. That's why I believe United Kingdom not really keen to see their Challenger 2 tanks on the front line, because they are quite sure, I guess, that those tanks will be destroyed and captured, and Russian side will learn some additional information about armor of those tanks, unique armor, and the fire control systems and the rest of it. But it will anyway happen. Those Challenger 2 tanks, one way or another, will end up in Russian hands. It's only a matter of time, I believe. Let me continue now, and TASS news agency is reporting about statement that Blinken made, head of State Department. So Antony Blinken said that Shoigu's recent visit in North Korea was conducted because of shortages of ammunition, military equipment that Russia has, and Russia wants now to import some military equipment from North Korea. Why not really? I mean, Blinken did made a statement like it's something unbelievable that Russia will, import some weapons. Yes, Russia will, if it's necessary, Russia will import some weapons. And what is wrong with it? The US imports weapons, for God's sake, in peaceful times. Isn't it? US militaries has many foreign-made military equipment. So why Russia should not require some additional weapons from foreign countries? North Korea, China, India, I don't know, Indonesia, Brazil, or any other country, for example. So, as I said, the very first day when that visit of Shoigu began in North Korea, I was thinking, one of the reasons why Shoigu went to North Korea probably is to conduct some negotiations and receive some artillery pieces and ammunition for it, which is logical in my understanding. I believe Russia is preparing large-scale offensive operations, which will take place before end of this summer, and I believe major Russian offensive probably will take place in upcoming winter. And of course, Russia needs as many artillery pieces and as much ammunition as it can possibly get hands on. So, well, if some agreements have been reached between Moscow and Pyongyang, great. Why not, really? So this statement from Blinken to somehow blackmail Russia, it would not work, because it's just normal stuff when countries are buying weapons when they need it. Let me continue now, and TASS news agency is reporting that Elon Musk refused to give Ukrainian side internet connection in close proximity from Crimea. Well, we all know that Ukrainian forces actively using Starlink system for communication, which is a good enough reason for me to, Starlink satellites to be destroyed, really. And if I was head of Russian Federation, I would definitely destroy Starlink satellites because they are enemy assets, really. But Putin has quite soft approach. Putin and his general staff has a soft approach towards many topics, and unfortunately Starlink is still operational, which is a great danger for Russia and Russian citizens, for safety of Russian citizens. But if this information is correct, maybe Musk is realizing that at some point Moscow may said, you know what, enough is enough, and Starlink satellites may went off one by one. It's not necessary to destroy them with kinetic weapons. Those satellites can be turned off with some other means, and they will be just flying rubbish on Earth's orbit. And Russia has such a technology to do so. And maybe Musk is afraid that that's what will eventually happen. And that's why he refused to connect Ukrainian forces with Starlink in close proximity from Crimea. But yet again, if it was up to me, I will destroy Starlink on the very first day when Ukrainian forces begin using that system against Russia to kill Russian citizens. That's what I will do. But anyway, let me continue. And RT is reporting that, well, few news about economical stuff. RT is reporting that Russian stock market hits a 17 months high. Well, partially this is due to rising oil prices and devaluation of the ruble. Well, to be honest, Russian stock market did not play such an important role in Russia as it does in US, for example, or in some other countries, because in Russia, stock market mainly are playground for rich and ordinary citizens are not really involved in buying and selling these papers of the different companies. So that's why no matter what is happening with the stock market, it don't really influences Russian economy in any significant way. But it's a good news that, well, stock market hits 17 months high. Okay, not bad. Well, this is also interesting. The German car giant car manufacturer reveals major hit on sale of Russian business. We are talking about Volkswagen Group, and they did sell their assets in Russia for 125 million euros. And by the way, in 2022, evaluation of assets of Volkswagen in Russia was 1.5 billion. So 1.5 billion on one hand and 125 million on other. Well, Volkswagen definitely had major losses on the Russian market, but yet again, it's their decision, isn't it? They decide to leave Russian market, and well, good luck with that. If it was up to me, I will never ever allow Volkswagen to return on Russian market ever. But well, they will have enough losses anyway. And they will definitely find it difficult to re-establish themselves on the Russian market once relationships between Russia and Western states will begin to normalize. And it will happen one day, isn't it? I mean, in 5 years' time, 10 years' time, or sometime in the future. And this is going to be last news for today's update. TASS news agency is reporting that Russian government disagree with the Russian Communist Party, which is the second party in Russian parliament. And Communist Party wanted Russia introduce a bill to withdraw Russia from International Monetary Fund, and well, Russian government said no to it, and this bill basically failed. And reasoning for that decision from government is that if Russia will withdraw from IMF right now, it will hurt Russian interests, Russian economical interests outside of Russia, and Russian assets outside of Russia, which is true. But yet again, we all know IMF, World Bank, and those World Trade Organization, all those so-called international institutions in reality are tools of Western elites and have been used against all the countries and all the governments that Western elites don't really like or don't really control. And that's why I believe Russia should stay away from such institutions as far as possible. That's my take on it, but well, eventually, of course, Russian will be forced to stay away from those organizations, even if Russia will not withdraw from those institutions. And this is it for now. 39 minutes, quite short update. Hopefully you will find it interesting, and if so, please click that like button. Leave some commentary about any topic you like. More likes and comments definitely influence YouTube's algorithm and do makes change. And if you can, please share links to my videos or my channel with your friends on Twitter, Facebook, Telegram, or any other platform that you are active on. I will be immensely grateful for this help. And if you think this channel is interesting, informative, and deserves to exist in this field of news and political commentary, please consider to support with small donations through PayPal, Buy Me a Coffee, or by subscribing to my Patreon page. You will see links under this video in the description box or in the pinned comment. This is it for now. I wish you a great day and take care.